The tarot has long been said to contain the secrets of the universe, a view with which, as you shall shortly see, we agree. Orthodox religious traditions regard the written word as the highest achievement of human thought and the only suitable medium for the transmission of religious or any other teaching. They personify the creative force as the Word, Logos, and regard written scriptures as infallible. It often seems that they feel the very act of writing a thing down makes it so, and that written material is incontrovertible by the very fact of its being written. The Orthodox religions are so reliant on the written word as the only acceptable transmitter of information that most of them have, at one time or another, actually banned visual depictions of people or things. Mystical religious traditions, on the other hand, have usually preferred visual to written forms as a means of transmitting religious ideas. All over the world, mystics have used artwork as the principal method of conveying their beliefs, relying on words primarily as an auxiliary, and even then the words are often used to convey visual images. The Orthodox religions prefer the written word because it is, theoretically at least, straightforward and unambiguous, allowing of literal interpretation. The written word creates an unchanging standard with a single meaning that does not easily vary. The Orthodox religions reject images because they are ambiguous, have multiple levels of meanings, and can be interpreted in different ways which are prone to change and adapt over time, the precise reasons that mystics prefer visual images. Moreover, though pictures may be understood by the mind, they primarily speak directly to the inner consciousness. When we read a written passage, we understand it only when we have finished all the words. When we see a painting or sculpture, we form our first understanding the second we see it, an understanding informed by our inborn emotional and psychological reaction, as well as by our cultivated understanding of symbols and images. The idea of a visual scripture, such as the tarot, is quintessentially mystical. You need only look at the walls of the most ancient temples, covered in murals or sculpture, to see how images have been used to convey allegorical myths in emotionally and psychologically touching ways. The lion head of Sekhmet is meant to convey the goddess qualities of strength and courage, not genetic anomaly. The many arms of Shiva, each holding a different implement, or assuming a significant posture, are meant to convey the deity's many attributes. The very surrealism of the image helps make clear that the reference is to spiritual qualities, not physical features. According to Barbara Walker, in her book, The Woman's Encyclopedia of Myths and Symbols, the Romani considered the tarot to be their people's Veda, that is, their sacred scripture, literally Veda, wisdom. Readers of the tarot were called Vedavika. The tarot was considered relevant not only for divining the future of everyday situations, but also to convey timeless and cosmic teachings about deity. The cosmic wisdom of the tarot was believed to reside in the major arcana. As we have said, the Trionfi, or major arcana, did not conform to the modern order when they first appeared, but developed over time. Many different systems of thought claim credit for the form the major arcana finally took. One of the principal influences on the development of the major arcana was Hermeticism. Based on the writings attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, Hermeticism was based on ancient Egyptian teachings as filtered through Hellenistic thought. Hermeticism put a strong emphasis on the relationship between deity, the soul, and the consciousness, focusing strongly on the idea that oneness with deity was the cure for all difficulties. Another major influence on the cards was alchemy. Alchemy also developed out of late classical thought, coming from very ancient antecedents. Most people very much misunderstand the nature of alchemy, being familiar only with the overly literal interpretation of it, created in large part by its opponents. Though some alchemists did shade into an early form of chemistry, at its best, alchemy was first and foremost a subtle and highly developed philosophical system, closely related to modern Wicca. Alchemy focused strongly upon the idea of the relationship between and resolution of the cosmic polarities, which they personified as king and queen. The death and resurrection of the king was a major theme of alchemy, being a metaphor for the development of the soul. Alchemy was very concerned with the development and evolution of the soul, described in extremely allegorical terms. The famous image of the alchemist laboring to turn lead into gold is in reality a reference to the idea of developing from physical consciousness, or lead, to divine consciousness, or gold. Both Hermeticism and alchemy were extremely popular in the Renaissance when the major arcana was taking shape, and contributed greatly to the cards. Indeed, the principal message of the major arcana is one that any Hermeticist or alchemist would recognize. Spiritual development brings one closer to deity. Being closer to deity puts us in control of our lives, and leads ultimately to conscious union with deity and the full access of divine power from within ourselves. Another major influence on the major arcana is said to be the Hebrew Kabbalah. The idea that the Kabbalah might be the basis of the Tarot was put forward in the 19th century AD by the ceremonial movement, and is encapsulated in the famous Waite-Smith tarot deck. Kabbalah is a system of understanding the divine through numerology. Its most famous aspect is the well-known Tree of Life, which arranges the numbers in a symbolic layout said to reveal the secrets of the universe. Kabbalists have been known to claim that the great pagan philosopher and numerologist Pythagoras was a student of pre-existing Hebrew Kabbalah and adapted its teachings for pagan use. However, it is much more likely that Pythagorean numerology influenced Kabbalistic numerology than vice versa. The idea that the Tarot was based on Kabbalah became dominant when author Eden Gray chose the Waite-Smith deck as the basis for her groundbreaking books on Tarot. Gray was the first author to write on the subject of Tarot for a mass audience. Previous works on Tarot had been written in an intellectual, somewhat impenetrable style and printed only in small runs. Gray's books were written in simple, easily understandable language, which made tarot accessible to all, and sparked the tarot renaissance of the 60s. However, while numerology has undoubtedly become important to tarot, it is also important to bear in mind that the earliest existing Kabbalistic Tree of Life chart dates only to the 1100s AD, and is not fully developed into its modern form. Therefore, while many people may associate the Kabbalah with tarot, it is unlikely that it is part of the card's origin. However, in discussing the cosmic meaning of the Tarot, it is not so much with the origins that we are concerned, but with what it means to us today, in light of contemporary thought. It must always be remembered that as we are living, growing beings, so too our knowledge lives and grows, adapting to new understandings and changing circumstances. Therefore, we must always ask ourselves not, what did this mean to our ancestors,